This session is on interactivity and augmented reality. And I think in the months and years to come, we're going to find that embedded vision technologies enable a host of new things. Two of the ones that I'm most excited about are augmented reality and natural user interface or interactivity. And I don't know if for those of you who were here yesterday or I think perhaps earlier in the week, is that right, Ori? The Augmented World Expo conference was here, and it's been a fascinating look at augmented reality. And we have Ori Inbar to thank for that. He's the founder of augmentedreality.org, which is a global not-for-profit organization that is dedicated to advancing augmented reality, and it puts on the Augmented World Expo conference. Ori's going to tell us about how embedded vision is enabling augmented reality and some of the amazing applications that we can look forward to. So, Ori, come on up. And you got this as a timer.
Hi, everyone. How are you doing? Great. Well, in the future, we'll all be wearing cool glasses, just like these, and also these crazy jackets. This is our mandatory clothing for the Augmented World Expo. All right, so it's great to be here at Embedded Vision Summit. We're going to talk a little bit about what is augmented reality, why it's important, how it has evolved, and where it's going. I have about 322 slides, so we're going to have to go through it very quickly. So it's going to be intense, but we're going to try to make it on time. So let's get going. So this is me. I'm from this planet. I live in New York, Manhattan, downtown Manhattan, 1 block from Ground Zero. This is my building. Here is my window. And this is the view from my window. I can see the Hudson from my house, which is very useful, especially when planes land on it. Before 9/11, this was my view. This is after, before and after. Only a first-person view can evoke this kind of emotion, something that no map or satellite view can ever emulate. And this is why augmented reality will completely change the way we interact with the world. Augmented reality can be simply defined as overlaying graphics on the real world, registered in 3D and in real time, but it's so much more than that. If you go back to where it started, it's 1968 with Ivan Sutherland in Harvard. He was the first to conceive it with a stereoscopic display connected to this massive contraption. No surprise, it was called Damocles sword. It was pretty scary. But you could argue it actually started earlier than that with Georges Méliès, magician and director credited with inventing special effects in film. And here's a movie created back in 1907 where people actually walk out of a poster. So basically bringing alive the world around us. Jumping ahead to 1984, Terminator depicted a robot with an AR vision. Of course, nobody knows why a robot would need to have all these texts in front of his eyes, but it's still a very cool way to have software that kind of finds a match for your clothing. In 2002, Minority Report showed natural gesture interaction with data, which was very cool. Although today you can probably do a lot of that without the special gloves, and maybe with without the extra dramatic effects that Tom Cruise is adding. And then in 2008, Iron Man featured AR to design the future in 3D with augmented reality. So AR will completely change the way humans interact with the world, and it's now transforming from science fiction to science fact. Humans, on the other hand, humans are getting smart on one hand, Humans are, on one hand, are getting smart devices and eyewear and wearables and gesture devices and sensors which augment all our senses, even our brain. And the world around us, on the other hand, is being augmented with sensors, cameras, Internet of Things, cloud and big data, location technology, and even robotics and 3D printing. Simply put, it will make everything in the world more interactive, people, places, and things. And when everything is interactive, you can basically program reality. So how did I get into it? My background is in software. I've worked in tech startups and large corporations. In 2007, I left to spend some time with my kids. I came home and found my kids are always in front of a screen, watching TV, playing video games, texting on their mobile devices. But here, in reality, they didn't spend enough time. So I thought, on the one hand, it's great because they're learning essential skills for the 21st century. But on the other hand, are they missing? It feels like they're missing a lot in reality. Are we all going to look like this? Many parents think so. But you can't force digital natives to abandon computers and video games. They won't go for anything you throw at them. And that's when I had the spark. I thought, what if we extract what attracts kids and adults to the screen and bring it into reality? Call it reality 2.0, because reality 1.0 might be a little boring for them. Since the dawn of man, humans evolved by interacting with their environment. When you look at early humans, they always interact with things. They always acquire skills by playing with stuff in their environment. And I think it took us 1 million years of interaction to get to where we are today. So how did we end up in front of a screen? I guess reality can compete with this level of intensity. But I believe in the future, we'll all look back at this era as sort of an awkward 30 or 40 years where we're stuck in front of screens. I think it's time to get back to reality. So what power can inspire us to interact with the world again? We are so oblivious to our surroundings. This is how we are today, walking while texting and bumping into things. Apps and computers rarely activate our brain to look around. And yet it is in our bones the need to interact with the real world, with people, places, and things. Ask Will Wright, the legendary game creator, and he'll say, games should make us more aware of our surroundings. If you look at some game consoles like Wii, Kinect, and Sony Move, they address the human need to move, but are still limited to the TV screen. So how do we get kids and adults off the screen? At first, I had no idea. Then I discovered this weird computer science term, hidden in labs for more than 10 years. This is, the blue line represents news volume in Google Trends. And it became my newfound passion. I fell in love with AR. So I started to look for inspiration. Rainbow's End was an ideal place to start, by Werner Vinge, or Eric Klopfer's Augmented Learning, and the fantastic books by Daniel Suarez. So I started a blog, and it became pretty popular in the space and helped me connect with some great augmented reality labs and innovative AR companies of the time. And the mission became clear. We have to find a way to bring augmented reality to the masses. Yep, that will work. When I searched for displays in labs, this is the kind of things I found. Would that work? Anyone voting for this? I'm sure you like this one. Would you walk on the street with this kind of thing? And then the iPhone came out, and all of a sudden you had this perfect device for augmented reality in your pocket. And the iPhone was not alone. A whole bunch of devices were coming out. And now Google Glass is making a lot of noise. And it's kind of creating a lot of mind share for augmented reality and a new explosion in app development rushing to develop for Glass. Although technically, it can't really do augmented reality because it's a notification engine in the corner of your eye. But the good news, we have about 10 companies actually launching new products, augmented reality glasses products, to the market this year, which is definitely becoming the year of the wearable. One day, these glasses will look like this, though so far it's only been tested in Photoshop. And in 10 years, it will look perhaps like this, though so far only tested on rabbits. Software algorithms have evolved quickly, along with stronger CPUs and GPUs and smaller and better motion sensors. The challenges were always, understanding the world and figuring out where are we relative to it. Starting from ugly markers, and then evolving to image recognition and 2D image tracking, and then other types of object tracking, like face tracking, and basically trying to understand any object in the world. It has to be in real time. So you don't have the luxury of sending information to a backend server. You want to see everything right there in front of your eyes. And you have, the typical hardware and battery constraints. The thing that once you track the world, now how do you interact with it? So things like motion and gesture and gaze tracking are becoming a key way to interact with the world once you don't have a computer, a keyboard, and a mouse. And recently, the hardware allows for 3D tracking and what is known as SLAM, simultaneous localization and mapping. Strong processing power to run sophisticated computer graphics manipulation. And many people ask, what's going to win out of all these different techniques? A single camera, 3D camera, stereo, IMUs. There are now sound sensors and signal sensors that can track your movement. But I think the ultimate answer is sensor fusion, when you really make use of all these capabilities, all these modalities to create the best interaction possible. The new frontier is creation tools, mostly for non-programmers, because once you want to provide the ability to create content to more people, you can't rely only on programmers. And that will help extend the reach of augmented reality. So lo and behold, after a while, AR became hot. So hot that I hear there's a huge interest in important conferences. John Jackson from IDC, an analyst, was quoted saying that there is a gold rush mentality around the space. And other analysts predict that AR market will reach $350 million this year, over $1 billion next year, and who knows where next. So in 2009, I co-founded Augmented to bring augmented reality to the masses, and developed a bunch of augmented reality games and pioneered the space with what we thought were pretty meaningful interactions. However, the industry hype also produced a fair amount of gimmicks in the market. Games that were some of them very cool, that look especially great, in the video where you were playing against the Manhattan skyline, but weren't really different from the experience of a typical virtual game. And then there was also the augmented reality navigation, which became pretty popular. Find the nearest subway, the cheapest gas station, a special discount deal in the area, and so on. The problem with that, it was relying on GPS, which isn't very accurate in urban areas, and especially not indoors. So that kind of put away a lot of the excitement around this area. And also, it became really easy to overlay a video on a page in a magazine, and many people started using it in a way that is kind of not adding true value. One of the problems is that it was driven by techies, which didn't really realize that it's all about interacting with the world. And that is very different from human-computer interaction, or HCI, which has been studied for 40 years. It's a new domain in design that should be thought of as human-world interaction. So that's why I came up with the 3 laws of augmented reality design. And here they are, pretty quickly. First, augmentation must emerge from the real world and relate to it. We don't want to just slap things on that are unrelated to the world. Rule number 2, augmentations must not distract from reality, but rather make you more aware of it. If it's distracting you, which sometimes Google Glass can do, it's really not delivering on its promise, which means that you are using the wrong technique. And law number 3, augmented interaction must deliver a superior experience to alternatives, or better yet, there's no alternative way to achieve that kind of experience. It is to take advantage of the unique spatial interaction of augmented reality, the need to move, the need to look and interact with different angles and touch and so on. But since AR is just a newborn industry after all, we didn't want it to end up like virtual reality, which was hyped in the early 90s and then crashed real hard. We formed augmentedreality.org, a nonprofit organization, along with a bunch of startups, all dedicated to advance augmented reality to advance humanity. The organization is helping connect people, educate people, whether it's developers or the public at large, and we also help startups hatch their ideas to market. The organization is also behind the world's largest augmented reality event, now in its 5th year, Augmented World Expo, that is taking place this week and is actually ending in just a couple of hours. I was going to invite you all, but I guess there's not going to be enough time. So what you could do is, we have over 150 speakers and amazing sponsors and exhibitors, plenty of air goodness that you'll be able to watch on YouTube in just a few days. Most of these sessions will be up. So let's take a quick look at some of the top trends that we're identifying in the space and can actually be very visible in the conference. So first one, from gimmick to value. That's the first thing you'll notice this year. In last about 12 months, we had this huge transformation from gimmick to valuable solutions, from girls jumping on a marker to applications that help in retail, healthcare, sports, training, and so on. The second trend is from mobile to wearable. The smartphone brought us augmented reality to the masses, and that was super cool. But we realized, we want more. We want glasses. And as I mentioned before, this year we have about 10 new products that are coming out to the market. Can anybody name those? Okay, it's quite a challenge. So we have companies like Vuzix, Epson, Meta, OptinVent, Athere, GlassUp, Laster, Recon, Lumus, and a few others which are coming out with real products to the market, though these are mostly 1.0 or some will say beta products. And mobile platforms will continue to deliver most of the augmented reality experiences in the next couple of years until glasses reach the inflection point. The third trend is from consumer to enterprise. This is the most significant trend I'm seeing this year. The industry is clear-eyed and recognizes that until the masses adopt glasses, which will take a couple of years, the big bucks are currently in the enterprise. Enterprise augmented reality is exploding with projects by Fortune 1000 companies, which I understand that there's no other way to solve some of these business problems. The fourth trend, from GPS-based experiences to 3D-fying the world. The first AR demo on a smartphone in 2008 was based on GPS, and it allows us to see information about a castle on a hill in Austria, and that worked great outdoors, but again, in an urban area or indoors, it just didn't cut it. But now, all of a sudden, this year, in the last few months, a bunch of new products are coming out to the market, which allows us to scan the world in 3D and map it in a very accurate way, whether it's using laser or vision or other types of sensors. And that's hugely important to make the world a more interactive place. The last trend is kind of summing up all the other trends. We're basically looking at computers disappearing onto our bodies and into the environment, and a new interface is emerging. We still have to invent it. It's kind of our job here and all the people in the industry. But we're basically looking for a new kind of interface that is truly natural. It is not limited by 2D screen and touch, which was heralded a few years ago as the new interface, but we're really looking for the new interface. So we saw this. So let's take a look at some examples of how augmented reality is already changing the world in many areas. First example, a couple of examples, pretty casual. Have you seen this, word lens? Anybody? You point your phone to signs in a different language, and it will translate it in real time on the spot. Quest Visual, the company that created that, was just acquired last week. It's pretty cool. And actually, we have here in the conference another company called Wearable, which does this for Japanese, which is a harder problem to solve. Here's a nice example, star tracker. I mean, I'm from New York, and when I look up, I usually don't see the stars. So with this application, you can actually see where they are and learn about the constellations. And using the sensors, and because it knows where you are and what time it is, you can actually show the stars just like you would see them in a real night, in a real sky. Here's some examples in healthcare. This is, I think, super cool. There's so much information about patients that is not being used, and because of that, doctors, cannot make proper decisions. Running? Okay. It's not running. But basically, you can take a lot of the X-rays and MRIs and overlay it on the patient's leg or body in a way that basically looks like you have X-ray vision. Here are a couple of examples in branding and retail. This is a cool example of where you toss a virtual ring on a real bottle. You can actually feel the interaction between the virtual and the real. It's just a game, but it's sort of a much deeper engagement level with the product, and brands love that. Here's another great example.
But there's still some confusion about just how real.
I'm going to do it quickly. They have basically some issues, right? People don't believe that the ingredients are really healthy for you, so they created this app which allows you to track in real time where the food that you get in your burger is coming from. They have all this information in the database, and based on the time and location where you're eating this burger, they get that they present that information in the app, and then of course create this augmented reality scene around the box of the burger. It's very cool. And then in retail, you want to buy something, you don't know how it looks inside, you don't know exactly how it's going to work, so you can have these kiosks which allow you to see a Lego box, for example, how the end result is going to look like, how it's going to move, and so on. Another example is from architecture. You want to visualize how a building is going to look like and be able to look at it from different angles, maybe even get inside. This is a great way to visualize that. Now let's look at the enterprise. This is one of the hottest examples, warehouse picking. Let me jump ahead a little bit. So first of all, it gives information to the warehouse picker, where to find a certain product, which avoids a lot of the errors that you typically have. And when you pick it, it shows you where it is exactly. And when you pick it, it automatically registers the product using computer vision and can trigger a whole business process in the back end. And here's a field service example. Also going to skip forward. So the light is out in a stadium, sounds familiar. And the technician is just called in, and he can basically get information about the problem right on his glasses, even if he doesn't know exactly where it is or exactly what to do. Here's another example for maintenance workers on the street. They can actually see below the ground level, where the problem is with pipes or some water leaks or whatever it is, based on the data that already exists in the city database. And this is a really cool example. Have you ever seen the America's Cup challenge? I've been trying to follow this for years, but I just couldn't understand what's going on with all these sailboats crossing each other. And this year they loaded sensors and cameras on the boats and around it, and they basically allow you to see an augmented reality view of what's really happening, who's leading, what their names, what's the speed, what's the distance. They can see even currents visualized, so that you know where the sailboats may want to go. I became an addict to this sport after this. Now I want to move to the connected home, or to the home itself, where there's huge potential to use augmented reality beyond the typical home automation that we're seeing today. Home automation is cool, but it kind of neglects the human interaction. So I like to call it the interactive home. I believe it has a far greater opportunity. What is it? So let's take a look at room by room. Living room. You might have seen this. I think it's from one of your members or past members. So using computer vision, embedded computer vision, actually, you can make gestures and interact with things in your home, like light a lamp, or even use your hand to dim it. Let's move on to the kitchen. This is from a concept video, so it's not real yet, but I think it's a great inspiration. First, you can see information about the ingredients that you need for a certain dish, whether it's ready or not. But the best part is coming out. So basically, you can gamify everything that we do, all the chores that we have and we don't like to do, especially kids, and get us to go back to doing things in the real world as opposed to just tapping on a screen. Let's go into the bedroom. So one thing, you want to purchase products online. Here you can actually test them and feel like you're having it in your hands, like these glasses. Or this really cool way to show different shoes in different colors.
To see the shoe like you're actually wearing it.
Or even clothing, of course. And that could be at home, or it could be in the store itself, where you can offer a much broader inventory than you actually have in the store. Let's jump into the playroom. This is one of the cool examples. This is literally a sandbox with sand. And on top of it, there's a Kinect and a projector that understands the depth, and based on that, colors the sand to reflect whether it's a valley or a hill. So every kid, like a 3-year-old kid, can come in and play it and will enjoy it immensely. So it's a great way to learn, a great way to simulate. And the best part is coming up in a second, where you basically play God and can drop water into your creation and see how the virtual water flows in the real sand. And there are other games for kids, like you can try out makeup without all the mess, and some crazy games. This is actually showing here. If you're interested, you should go check out this demo. It looks like a science fiction game, but it's actually happening for real. You have the ability to scan the room down to the millimeter level, and then overlay it with computer graphics to provide a fully immersive experience. All right, and then in the garage, you want to fix your car, but you have no idea how. Instead of reading those tedious manuals, you can actually get the information right there on your screen, on your glasses. And these are actually, this is real. I mean, applications are now delivering on this and enabling you to kind of see the different steps and fix the car, possibly. There's also in navigation, in car navigation, HUDs are visualizing information on how to avoid some of the mistakes that typical GPS systems have by showing you exactly what lane to take in an intersection and so on. This is another cool example from a company called Meta, where you have glasses with a 3D camera on top of it that detects the gestures of your hands, and that allows you to potentially sculpt things. And just to complete the circle, you can even drop your creation in a 3D printer and see it become a real thing. All right, fitness, let's skip that quickly because we're running out of time. Seeing through walls, I think that's a huge potential for homes. All you need to do is just have a camera on one side of the wall and a projector on the other side, and you can basically see through the wall. And there are many real applications for this, like, you want to, instead of having a baby monitor, you can actually see your kid through the wall while you're sitting in the living room watching TV. And of course, trying furniture in your home before buying. The IKEA catalog application was actually delivering on that. And here's an example of the 3D-fying the world occipital structure sensor, which is a 3D camera that basically as an accessory on an iPad. It allows you to scan a person. I was just scanned in our expo in like less than a minute. With an iPad, you can scan a room and get measurements. So this is the interactive home. We think it's important because it makes everything we do more engaging, productive, and ultimately more fun. And I want to show you one last example, my favorite of all. It's called Augmented Reality Pool. And it basically has a camera and a projector on top. It detects the balls and shows you the ideal angle to hit the ball into the hole every single time. So you can basically just start playing for the first time and become a master. Here you go. If you remember in The Matrix, Trinity downloaded a program into her brain that taught her how to fly a chopper in a couple of minutes. With augmented reality, you can do just that, minus the plug. So we can evolve by augmenting ourselves through our natural senses, as opposed to other ways, which we're not going to talk about today. We may become superhumans sooner than we thought. But first, let's get away from the screen, get back to reality, make the world more interactive. Thank you.